these sessions for students who maybe weren't able to make the session today, and we are posting them on our website. So just be aware of that as we are recording you, and wanted to make sure that you were aware. And then the other big thing, we are just very excited to be able to facilitate this in place of what we would normally have at orientation called Rebel Roundup. Nowhere near the same, but obviously we're at least trying to make it work in some really unprecedented times. So thank you all for joining us, panelists and then students. Thank you all for taking the time to learn a little bit more about fraternity and sorority life. So some general housekeeping things before we get started. Make sure to mute yourself if you're not actively speaking on the call. We've all gotten really comfortable, hopefully, with Zoom at this point, probably more comfortable than we would like to be. But just make sure to mute yourself if you're not talking. The other thing that we want to make sure that you're aware of is that we are utilizing Otter AI to help us transcribe our conversations. So if you need to take advantage of that feature, you can click on the arrow that's next to the live on otter.ai live notes box at the top of your Zoom screen, and that will allow you to view live notes. I will also in a second post a link in our chat if you want to use that link to see an automatic transcription or a live transcription of what folks are saying. Panelists, thank y'all for preparing and being here today. As y'all know, we will sort of call on you and your organizations to answer some of the questions. We'll hopefully have it be a little bit more conversational. We'll get used to the order and you can just sort of respond after the person that went before you responds. And we want to make sure that we save plenty of time at the end of the session for any of our students who might have questions about learning more about fraternity and sorority life. So to kick us off, we'll start with some introductions. I realize I did not introduce myself. That is terrible. I'm not modeling the way at all. But I'm Will Takewell. I'm the Associate Director for Student Leadership and Engagement. And so again, I want to kick us off with doing some introductions of our student org panelists that we have here today with us. So let's start with IFC.
Hello there, everybody. So my name is Harrison McInnes. I am the current Vice President of Recruitment for the Fraternity Council. I'm a senior chemical engineering major, originally from Madison, Mississippi, graduated from Madison Central High School, go Jaguars. And I'm here representing the Interfraternity Council as a whole today. The Interfraternity Council is one of our 3 Greek councils on campus. It comprises of 15 individual chapters. I won't get too deep into it because I know we have other people to introduce. But just wanted to make that distinction that I'm here representing the council as a whole rather than an individual chapter.
Is Nicholson still on the call? Did he want to introduce himself?
My bad. I'm sorry. I didn't hear anything.
That's okay.
My name is Nicholas Sis. I'm with the NPAC. I'm the president of Phi Beta Sigma, or the Eta Beta chapter on campus. And I'm from Archer, Mississippi. I'm from here. I'm a current senior majoring in criminal justice with a minor in education.
Awesome. All right, CPH, do you want to go next?
Hey guys, my name is Shelby D'Amico. I am a senior public policy leadership and accounting major from Madison, Mississippi, and I'm representing the College Panhellenic Council for this call, along with Mary Frances to introduce herself, but I currently serve as the president of the Panhellenic Council.
Hey y'all, my name is Mary Frances Ward. I am an upcoming senior. I'm a special ed major, and I'm originally from Jasper, Alabama, and I am Vice President of Recruitment.
Hi everyone, my name is Jocelyn Frierson. I'm a rising senior allied health studies major with minors in psychology and biology from Oxford, Mississippi. And I'm here representing the NPHC, which is the National Panhellenic Council, as a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and I serve as the chapter president.
Go Chargers.
All right, awesome. And still some love for our high schools. We love to see it. I'm from Ponchatoula, Louisiana. Went to Ponchatoula High. That's not that exciting. Okay, so I just want to kick us off again by saying thank you for joining us today. And I guess the first thing we want to start off with, and I know we have some individual groups that are sort of being facilitated on this panel, but then we also have councils. So talk a little bit to us about the purpose of your organization, whether it's your chapter or your general council. Like, what is the purpose and what's the big contribution that Greek life or fraternity and sorority life make to campus?
Starting with me again.
Yeah, we'll just go in the same introduction order to keep it good and flow.
Okay, awesome. So I'll actually, to start with the purpose, I can just tell you like what the actual written purpose is for the Interfraternity Council, which is to promote unity, cooperation, leadership, scholarship, service, and philanthropy amongst our member organizations, fellow Greek governing councils, the University of Mississippi, and the Oxford, Mississippi community. Now, many of you might be asking, okay, but what does that even mean? So I like to boil it down to a few key values that really drive all of our respective IFC organizations. The first one is academic success. So trying to promote scholarship, not just for each individual members, but among the council as a whole. The second one is philanthropy and service. So really trying to give back to both our local and even larger communities in a variety of ways, whether that be through primarily like monetary ways or even more greater efforts of time and labor. The third one is leadership, developing leaders not just within like the council for council leadership or chapter leadership, but also for broader campus leadership. And then finally, just building better men. I think if you ask any member of one of our 15 organizations, that building better men on campus is something that that all of them strive to do. That I know I've experienced through my individual participation, and it's something that I think really helps set us apart from a lot of other student organizations on campus. So IFC has really provided a lot in those aspects. Those are some of our values, some of the activities we commonly participate in. I know we're going to get a little bit more in depth into that in a little bit, but feel free to ask any questions. Like I said, I'm a rising senior, so I've been around the block a few times with IFC, so I can speak to a lot of the experiences that you can expect from joining one of our member organizations.
As a member of the Eta Beta chapter, our mission is basically setting our core values of brotherhood, scholarship, and service, and that's something that we proud upon, especially scholarships. And we also, our mission is being an outreach to the community, being someone for the community like to lean on. We're big on community service, helping the community, and being diverse on campus, getting other people involved with our organization, and we're big on just making sure we can do anything possible to help the next person. That's basically what our chapter mission is on campus.
Yeah, so the College Panhellenic Council as a whole, I would say definitely aims to improve our communities and to leave it better than we found it. We also prioritize scholarship as a big component of that, as well as community involvement and engagement within like our university. So those are probably the three biggest things to me. But as a whole, and in their individual chapters, our community service really continues to fall far ahead, and we have different endeavors and activities that we always put on every year as fundraisers and different ways to raise awareness in our community. And that is, I guess, basically it for me.
I definitely agree with Shelby. Some other values that the National Panhellenic Conference really upholds are also friendship, leadership, knowledge, and integrity. And I think those are also like very important, especially friendship. You'll make friends before recruitment, post recruitment, and I think it's important to make friends with IFC members and NPHC members. And I think that our councils have been doing a great job of really doing that. And also like making sure that you have friends in like other sororities. Cause like, I mean, sisters are great, but like also like it's important to like stay like, or kind of branch out outside of just like your own sisterhood.
So the MPHC as a whole, which is also known as the Divine Nine, is made up of the 9 Black Greek letter organizations. And their purpose as a whole is to provide community service and like public service with a primary focus on the Black community. And that's also a very specific part of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated's mission and purpose. We're all about like member development and bettering each other as sisters, but also bettering our community that we're in and the communities that we will eventually go to. So we're really big on public service, community service, and just sisterhood in general.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing all of that. So I guess that kind of leads well into the next question about sort of fraternity and sorority life, and what has been some of your favorite things, or try to limit yourself to one. I know there could be many things that you could talk about, but what's one thing that your organization does each year that you really, really enjoy, or what is your favorite thing about each year?
So having previously served as Vice President of Philanthropy for IFC, I'm always going to be partial to the philanthropy and service aspect. Rather than one event, I guess I would just sort of, my answer would be just the variety of philanthropy activities that all of our chapters sort of participate in. We have like large football game fundraisers for one chapter. Another chapter holds like a breakfast every or one Saturday every fall to raise money for the Ability Experience. Another chapter does like a cookout. And so just the wide variety of different activities you get to see that all sort of aim at providing some service or monetary benefits at different portions of the community for good causes is an amazing thing to see. And I think with 15 different chapters all sort of putting their own stamp and brand on how they want to give back, I've just always, that's been one of my favorite things for being a member of the IFC community, is just to see the vastly different ways similar groups of people can make an impact.
One of my favorite things that we do every year is going to visit the schools. We always go to visit Usher High School or the elementary, just to go help out or read to the kids, either open doors for them. That is something that I really enjoy because I'm from Oxford, and just giving back to them, just seeing like the kids smile on their face or just brighten their day up. They really like make an impact on our lives. So that's like one of my favorite things that we do every year, visiting the schools.
One of my favorite things that the College Panhellenic Council does every year is our Care Walk that raises funds and awareness for breast cancer research. I think it's just a really cool and unique opportunity for every member of every Panhellenic chapter to come together and to fight for a common cause. And I think that just seeing how these women from all over our community can come together and do this thing together, you know, forgetting the competition that might exist between the two and everything like that, and just come together for a better cause is definitely my favorite thing.
I think one of my favorite things is also like philanthropy. So most chapters, actually every chapter has a national philanthropy, but then most chapters also have a local philanthropy. And I think that local is like just as important as the big national, and you really get to see the difference that you are making on the local level. You get to go to like More Than a Meal, go read to students at the schools, like all that kind of stuff. So you really are like seeing what you're doing and like how you're impacting families or students in Oxford.
My favorite thing that our chapter does is something that like the entire MPHC takes part in. We have a thing called Delta Week. So every semester, each chapter has their own individual week, and that week is full of that chapter's specific events. And I really enjoy Delta Week because that allows us to showcase all of our important, like the things that are important to our chapter. So we can have fun events like open mic night that kind of help fall in the aspect of like mental and physical well-being and health. But we also have things such as financial literacy workshops and just different like drives and collection drives and things that also help like better the community in that aspect. So that's one of my favorite things, and being able to attend all the different chapters weeks as well.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much. So sort of thinking about recruitment and intake and the different ways to sort of go about joining an organization that might be a part of fraternity and sorority life, what is some advice that you might have to a student about why they should join a Greek organization or seek out membership in a Greek organization?
Well, that's a really good question. I ultimately come back to the word community. It's one of the three C's that our director, Doc, likes to throw around a lot, but it really is the one that always sticks with me most. Coming into college can be a very intimidating part of your life. I think any of the student leaders talking on this panel would know because we've been there. And one of the biggest fears I know I had coming in was, would I find that sort of sense of community somewhere on campus? And so through Greek life, I know just like so many students manage to find that community that looks out for their academic success, that helps them get connected, not just on campus, but even in the broader community. Um, and additionally, just like helps them to be better than they were the day before or the week before. Constant improvement in one's, whether that be like professionally, or even just morally. Um, I know that the Greek life has given a lot to me. It's given a lot to other people. And so I really do think that a lot of incoming students can find that similar sense of community coming into Greek life. And so there come a lot of benefits, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the people you meet, and the friends you make, and the people who will have your back down the road. And that spans organization, that spans councils. I think a lot of my peers on this panel would agree with me on that.
As a member of the MPAC, and I'm a transfer student, so I highly recommend that you should get interested in Greek life, because I met some people that really changed my experience and my thoughts on how college will be coming to Ole Miss as a transfer student. I thought I was gonna be alone, didn't have anybody, or couldn't depend on nobody. But I actually found, when I found my organization that I wanted to join, I found a group of people that really care about me. They were sincere. They would help me do anything. They would always encourage me, tell me when I'm wrong and tell me when I'm right. And sometimes you need people in your corner to tell you when you're wrong and when you're right. And that's why I think you should join or come to a Greek life and join the MPAC, because as an MPAC, it's a family and everybody's just willing to help everybody to reach their goals or to be successful in life.
Yeah, I think a lot of our answers to this question, as you can see, are going to be very similar. But like I would have to echo both of them and say community is just the best part about being a part of Greek life. Having those group of women and even men who can just support you whenever you're feeling down or celebrate you in your highs and just continually push you to become your best self in whatever way that might look for you is definitely the highlight of Greek life. I think that without Greek life, my college experience would look very different, and I wouldn't have met half as many of the people and been able to build those connections with them as I have. So I think that the community allows for a lot of growth in you as an individual and for our community as a whole.
I'm also going to echo everyone. Definitely community. It's like you have a constant support system, whether it's within your own chapter or in the FSL office. Everyone's always proud of you. They'll cry with you. It's like you have your home away from home, and I think that's very important. It's kind of like a safe haven, even if you don't have necessarily like a real like house on campus. You still have like your people who are like your family or your home.
So yes, like Shelby said, everybody's answer for this question is pretty much going to be the same. So I have to agree with everyone in the sense that I think joining an organization like this provides you with a home away from home and a family away from your actual family. And it allows you just to meet so many more people than you originally would have had you not joined. And I feel like that's with any organization outside of Greek life. So I think it's definitely important to join things like this where people have like common interests as you. And I know for me personally, once we cross into our organization, then that's with us for the rest of our lives. And so when I leave Ole Miss, I can reach out to people that are also Delta somewhere else, at schools that I want to go to or job opportunities that I want to have. And because we share that same experience, they're more willing to help me because they're like, oh, okay, well, you're my sister. So I'm more inclined to kind of help you and like help you get to where you want to be or where you need to be. So I think that's a very important aspect of it.
Hey, community is the reason why we're here. I can say too, as you know, an alum of a Greek organization myself, that's the biggest reason why I still do things and I still care about my experience. So I love what y'all shared. It was awesome. Um, so next question, and maybe this one will be a little bit different, or maybe it'll be the same answer for everyone. Who knows? But can you tell me a little bit about what have you learned being part of your organization? What sort of like transferable skills or just things you've learned about yourself being a member of a Greek organization?
That's a really good question. So fun fact for some context, I'm actually completing an internship right now. I'm in Houston, Texas, for an engineering company. But one thing I'd say I learned through Greek life that is a skill for both the professional world and really just anywhere is the ability to really try and start a conversation with anyone, especially those who are very different from you, who have may had a very different experience than you have. I know in my pledge class or the group of guys who all joined my individual chapter organization at the same time. I mean, geographic spread across the country spanned as far as like California, Montana, New York, and anywhere and everywhere in between. And I was just a guy from Mississippi, right, who hadn't traveled enough to really know what some of those experiences would be like. And then even just outside of my individual organization, talking to people from other chapters and even from other councils, you really start to have a greater appreciation for the diverse experiences of people. And so I've seen that in my personal life and then especially in my professional life, being able to have a conversation with anyone about where they come from is a really powerful skill that I really developed well through my participation in Greek organizations. Um, yeah, I'll keep my answer at that. That's probably the biggest one.
Something that I have learned that it comes with a lot of sacrifices. I mean, you can't always think about yourself and things. You always have to do stuff for others, and like you always have to put your organization first and do what's best for them. And what I would say, what I take from it is I learned a lot of business protocols on how to like do things, to send proper emails to people. That's something like I really didn't like know how to do. But being inside my fraternity, like they taught me that we had a lot of business meetings, protocols. So I learned a lot of different things on how to handle different situations as well. So there's some things I learned.
Yeah, kind of cheesy, but I would have to say that I've definitely learned how to celebrate others through my experience in Greek life. I think that I never knew the importance of it or realized just giving people that, that extra push to keep going or just tell them that they're doing all they can and they're doing the best they can is definitely something that I've really been harnessed in my experience with Greek life. And seeing, sisters or other women in our community or even across councils who may be needing that little extra push of encouragement. And because we are part of this giant, great community on our campus, we can really learn to lean on each other and to celebrate each other through that.
Okay, so mine's a little different. Mine would be time management, which I think has like become very important in my life. So in high school, I was involved in like everything, never struggled with like having to deal with like managing my time. And then come to college and then you have all this stuff thrown at you. So you have like swaps, you have like new member stuff and date parties, formals, and then everything else that's going on around campus. And like it's important to like be able to manage your times with studies and be able to have a social life, and like it's okay to say no. So like I think between time management and learning to say no, like I've gained a lot from being in a sorority.
So I think the biggest thing I've learned is that a lot of our core values revolve around sisterhood and brotherhood in case of the fraternities. And while those are very important to us, they're not easy. And especially because these sisters that you get come from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds. So while your sisters and your brothers that you might have at home with you, they were all raised the same, they all have the kind of the same values and everything, you're going to come in contact with people that may not think like you, and may not have the same experiences as you, but still like learning to work with them and love them as your sister and just kind of accepting people for their experiences and giving them the space to be like 100% themselves and not feel that they have to like shrink who they are because they're a part of this organization. So that's been a very big thing that I've learned, just allowing people to like be themselves and then allowing myself to be myself in front of people that aren't necessarily family but have become family.
Awesome. Great answers, y'all. So can you tell us a little bit about what the membership experience might look like in some of our organizations here on campus that are fraternities and sororities?
Right. So I guess just sort of bring out the disclaimer again. I'm here representing the council of the Interfraternity Council. So we have 15 active chapters on campus, and each membership experience is going to look a little different. But I'm going to try to speak to what I think are some of the commonalities between all of those. So most of our chapters actually have a housing facility on campus. So they would have a house. Many of them have a sort of meal schedule where they can go to the house and eat meals, socialize. Amongst all our chapters, regardless of whether they have a house or not, many of them are very active in trying to promote brotherhood amongst their events. So whether that be something big like a social function, like a swap or a date party, or even something more casual, right? Like just getting together on Sunday to watch some NFL football. Those are like sort of everyday experiences that I associate with being a member. And then there's other big events throughout each semester, like the philanthropy and services, another sort of prime example of that. But really, a lot of the experience is what you sort of how much you invest and sort of make from it. I know some people who joined a chapter and really didn't invest that much and didn't get as much out of it. And I know some people who have invested a lot into Greek life, and it has become sort of their, to some people maybe a little bit more important than academics, but it's become like the major sort of staple of their college experience. And so the membership experience is one where you really get to try to make the most of it. You can become really chapter focused. You can even try to gain experience with the broader council perspective. But the number of chapters we have provides opportunities to really try to find which membership experience is best for you. And I know we'll probably later in this discussion, we'll talk about recruitment at some point, and I can speak a little bit more to that.
As Harrison said, membership experience is what you invest into it. I mean, you can be a part of an organization, but if you don't invest in what you're doing, like you won't experience anything. But inside my chapter, we experience a lot of brotherhood. We do a lot of organized events together. It's just what you make of it. I mean, it depends on your like how you adapt to your members and like that. And experience. I will also say yes, it's a good experience. I mean, it's different. I mean, you learn different things. I mean, it's a good experience for me.
For a pretty like practical, like logical membership experience in Panhellenic, I would just kind of think about once you do become a member of a Panhellenic chapter, you would have to go through a new member process where you'd probably be led by a member of your chapters or the chapter's executive council. That would be the new member educator, would walk you through your chapter's values, history, everything you might need to know as a new member or as a member of the organization. At this point, you could definitely take advantage of all that the chapter and the facilities have to offer. So you can go to the house for meals, really just attend the different fun events that may occur, just to take advantage of meeting new people. I think that's one of the biggest things about college is that it's really hard to meet new people and everybody always gets nervous about it. But you have to remember that everybody is nervous about it. So not to be afraid to attend events and get outside of your comfort zone and just meet those members. So that's basically what the beginning of a membership may look like in Panhellenic.
Adding on to what Shelby said, I'm going to kind of quote what Harrison said. You really like get out what you put in. So if you're going to the house meeting people, you're going to have like a great experience and really love your chapter. There's 400 women in each of our chapters. And so like, even if you don't necessarily get what you thought you would get on bid day, like you're going to find women who you love and who hold the same values as you. And then also membership. So she talks about the meals that you have at the house. You'll also have an opportunity to live in your house. I know my chapter, you can live in it like any of the sophomore, junior, or senior year, but some chapters you have to wait until senior year. And then you'll be an active participant in recruitment the next few years. And then you'll also be able to go to swaps, day parties, formals, and all of that.
So I'm gonna also echo what Harrison said about you get out of your organization what you put into it. So I know for us in the NPHC, a lot of people typically see us and think, oh, those are the people that stroll and step, and that's all they think that those sororities and fraternities are about. But also putting in the behind the scenes work with the community service and the programming and the member development and just working for your community. I think that's kind of like the day-to-day thing. So while a lot of times people see us and like I said, just automatically think of the stepping, the strolling, and the fun part, it's also a lot about like the service and the sisterhood that you like form within that. So by doing all the fun things that everybody gets to see, you get to form those bonds with people in your organization and also within different councils and everything.
Okay, great. So thank y'all for those perspectives. I know that these are some like tough questions, but I think there's some really helpful information that y'all are giving folks who might be interested in joining. So going off of that and sort of thinking about what y'all were talking about earlier and the fact that community is something that is really important to the fraternity and sorority life community here at the University of Mississippi. How do people go about getting involved in a Greek organization? And what should they know is sort of like the ideal qualities of someone looking to join an organization? So what are y'all like looking for in new community members? Y'all can kind of like answer that about IFC, members, CPH members, or NPHC members if you would choose, or just sort of broadly and say, if you're a member of our community, this is kind of what we expect. Take it however you'd like.
So I'm going to choose to speak to the IFC experience and let the specialists in each of their councils speak for themselves, because I think they can better speak to what their council is sort of typical of. So if you are looking to join an IFC organization, the primary way to do that is through fall formal recruitment. Now, you can sign up through fall formal recruitment from our website, ifc.olemiss.edu. And formal recruitment is, as the name implies, a more formal process in which we spend about a week, really a little bit over a week, getting you in touch with chapters through like official events so that you can meet them, try to make an impression with them, and secure a bid to membership in an organization that you believe matches your values and matches the experience that you would want to have. That fall formal recruitment, we are making some adjustments with the current like COVID-19 pandemic to best account for the health and safety protocols, both from the university and the state of Mississippi. But just know that we still do plan on having a fall formal recruitment this year, even if it does sort of adapt to include some virtual formats or even virtual rounds. We're still getting information about that out, sort of still planning on how to best adapt to that. But that's sort of the primary way to join an IFC organization is to participate in fall formal recruitment. As far as what the ideal like incoming member into the community would be, I would say somebody who just wants to make a positive impact on the world around them, someone who wants to join a community not just to gain the benefits from that community, but also to make it better. And really the one that I always come back to is someone who wants to be a leader in the way that sort of is fit for them. I think leadership often gets sort of conflated into this idea of like, oh, it means you have to be the president of the associated student body or the vice president of the column society. And it can be those things, but really one of the most fun aspects of being a member of an IFC organization for me is seeing how each of my brothers in my organization or people within the community sort of lead through their own paths. And so those are sort of the qualities I would think would be ideal for an incoming member. And then to reiterate, for IFC, joining an IFC organization, fall formal recruitment. I'll pass it along.
As a part of the NPAC, my organization, we usually have an informational every semester, which is like interviews, and we just like it's for us to get to know you, to see what you're about. But the qualities we're looking for is community service, scholarship, good grades, must have above like a 2.7, and we're also looking for people that actually just want to be in the organization, not want to be in the organization for clout or to be popular or something. Like have real reasons of why you want to be in the organization, and just be meaningful about it. And that's about it for the NPAC.
Yeah, I think for College Panel Council, I could definitely just like take everything Harrison said and just like flip it into like women. But basically, if you are interested in becoming a member of the College Panel Council, you will go through primary recruitment in the fall. That's the most like baseline way to get into the community, I would say. So that registration does close on August the 1st, and there's a bunch of information on our website. I just always Google like College Panel Miss that regards to what may be required to register for recruitment. But in my opinion, like an ideal person like wanting to join our community would just be someone who, like Harrison said, wants to genuinely better our community, not just to get into it for its benefits. And another thing I would say is someone who upholds our values and finds like I guess values having values, if that makes sense. So someone who's maybe not as concerned with what sorority they are joining or what organization they do become a part of, but thinking more about our community as a whole and how we can use the individual chapters to continue to better our community.
I definitely agree with everything Shelby said. The only thing that I'd like to add is if you would like to sign up for recruitment, it closes August 1st, so go ahead and do it. There is a registration fee, but that covers like 2 t-shirts, and we're not sure what else depending on how recruitment's set up this year. We're still trying to figure that out. And then also like follow our social media for updates. That's how like we really communicate with y'all.
So kind of like Nick said, each individual NPHC organization hosts an informational or interest meeting each semester. But also before that, you have to go to Greek Forum, and that's something that you can sign up for and register for too. And I think Greek Forum, the date right now is in September. It'll be at the end of NPHC week. But going to Greek Forum and kind of learning about all the different organizations and seeing their GPA requirements, their community service requirements coming in, and just kind of scoping out which organization you think you want to join. And also just kind of making sure that before you join an organization, making sure that you're holding yourself accountable for like your academics and your service on an individual scale. Because a common thing in our fraternities and sororities we say is don't let the letters make you, like you make the letters. So not joining an organization just to get the letters and to say like, oh, I can wear these letters on my chest, but getting in an organization so that you can add something to it and also gain something from it. And just making sure you're kind of like a well-rounded whole person going into something like that. So making sure that you're making the grades in the classroom and you're involved in your community, you're a good person in general before hopping into something like that, because it is a big community.
All right, those are some awesome perspectives. Thank y'all so much for that. I guess for sort of a final question, or really just to sort of turn it over to y'all, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you really want to make sure folks know about fraternity and sorority life at the University of Mississippi?
I mean, so I guess another piece of advice I would give, and this relates to IFC, I think it relates to all the councils, honestly, is I would ask within yourself what you want to get, like what do you hope to see or contribute before really like just diving into the process head first. Like I know for me, like I sat back before I went through and thought like, what am I looking for in an organization? Like what are my values? and who are the people I'm trying to surround myself with. And that really helped me to sort of center my search and my interactions with a lot of Greek organizations. And so I would encourage all of you to do the same, is to ask, like, what are your values? And instead of listening to what some people might say, or one chapter is better than another, ask yourself, like, which chapter do you identify with, and which chapter do you feel aligns most with your values? Is the best advice I can give to anybody interested, and I think my peers would agree that goes for all three councils.
For the NPAC organization, I would just say, just do your research on each chapter and just make sure, like, you know which one you're interested on, and just take your time. No pressure. Just make sure you make the right pick, and make sure you're just doing it for you, and just be happy with your decision.
I'll add to that too, but like Harrison and Nick just said, I do think that you have to remember that you are the person who is going through recruitment or who is going through intake, and you're doing this for you. You're not doing it for anyone else. So it's not, what does Sally Joe value, or what does this person value? You have to really think about yourself and your values, and if that chapter's values align with you.
So going off what everyone else said, I definitely agree with them. And like, this isn't your mom's recruitment. It's not your sister's recruitment. It's not your best friend's recruitment. It's your recruitment. And so like, you go where you feel most comfortable. You go where you feel like you can walk in one day and cry, and like, people are going to be there for you, or go in without makeup on and not feel like people are staring at you, And then also, like, it doesn't matter the road the house is on or the letters of the house. It, like, kind of like what Jacqueline said earlier, like, you make your letters. The letters, like, don't define you. Like, you make your letters. So just remember, like, don't not go a house because you don't think that Shelby would go that house, or not go that house, So like, it's all about what you make it, and don't believe the stereotypes because they aren't true.
I also have to agree with what everyone else said, and also just kind of add to that. If you're interested in joining like a specific organization and you're coming in knowing that, try to find people that you trust, that you can reach out to and talk to. And like, if you have questions that you might not feel comfortable asking in a big group of people, finding people that you trust and making sure you kind of stick to those people, so that they can kind of lead you and guide you through your decision-making process. And even if that person isn't in the exact organization that you want to join, just asking them about Greek life in general, like what their experience has been. Because even though the letters may change, the experiences are typically pretty much the same.
Awesome. Those are some great perspectives. So to kind of wrap things up for our call today, we want to turn it over to any of our incoming students who might have questions. So feel free, if you want to either unmute yourself and ask a question, you can, or if you want to drop something in the chat, if you're not feeling like Zoom room brave yet, we get it. You can definitely post something in the chat, but we want to encourage some questions because we have some of the experts on our call right now. I mean, you might have just done that great of a job and clarified everything. So that's also a win in my book.
I've got a question for the group, just because I'm curious. What did y'all think? What were some of the biggest misconceptions about your chapter or your council that you like hear most often from people who are like interested? Like, what are the big misconceptions that y'all think are out there about, like, whether it be like an individual PhD organization or college Panhellenic? I'm curious because I know that there's definitely some for IFC.
This is just a very broad statement, but I think that it's important for everybody to hear it. Is, I know we all talk about like sisterhood and brotherhood, but you have to realize that like that isn't necessarily immediate always. I think a lot of people get really discouraged and they think that their first day in their new organization is going to be perfect and they're going to have an immediate like 400 plus friends, or in any number of friends. But it is definitely something that, like, I'm going to continue to repeat what we've been saying. You get as much as you put in. to get that you get as much out as you put in. Ooh, that was hard for me to say. But just knowing that you do have to put yourself outside of your comfort zone, and it is going to be easier if you found an organization that has those aligned values with you, but it is definitely something you're going to have to put yourself a little bit out there, and it may take a little bit to have your core group of friends.
I would say for the NPAC that my organization, none of the NPAC organizations is a non-hazing organization. Just want to put that out there, let them know that it's not real. I know that was like a big thing when I was joining, that everybody was talking about hazing. We're a non-hazing fraternity, and we won't take part in that.
Yeah, I know for IFC, I would largely agree with what Nick said. The Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life and the individual council execs and chapter leadership are bought into the idea that hazing is not something that is condoned, endorsed, or even allowed in any of our Greek organizations, and know that we take a pretty hard line on that. So I would just echo what Nick said, that it really applies to all three councils. Yeah, because I know, trust me, from personal experience, I wouldn't want to see any organization in a hazing allegation with the director leadership we have, because I can promise you that will not go well for that chapter. I see some head shaking because they know Doc ain't playing on that.
Yes, can confirm. I serve on that council, so I understand. So the other, we looks like we do have a question in the chat asking a little bit more about how long does it usually take for some of the membership processes for organizations?
I know for my particular chapter, it takes about 8 weeks, but for some chapters in CPH, it takes up to 10 weeks. So you'll go from bid day and then have new member education where you learn about your chapter. Shelby spoke on that earlier. And then you'll have initiation, which usually happens like anywhere between like November and January.
For IFC, I know that timeline is going to be a little bit shorter this semester, given coronavirus risks that we're trying to mitigate. So the formal recruitment takes place over a week. After you receive your bid, I would say for this semester, you're looking at like maximum 8 weeks for a new member period for an IFC organization before becoming a full member through an initiation ceremony that's unique to each chapter.
I agree with Harrison with everything is kind of up in the air just a little bit with COVID going on. So there's a typical like time period process, but like we're still waiting on word from nationals about certain things that like can and cannot happen with COVID happening. So that's a very, I don't know, it's a very hard answer to give right now.
All right, so there's another question, and I know y'all have a lot of resources available online about the different costs associated with joining an organization at the University of Mississippi, but do I want to talk a little bit about fees to join organizations and how those might vary from organization to organization?
I know for my chapter, the fees for membership was $1,700, and also you have NPAC fee that you have to pay every semester.
For Panhellenic, there's a range. So really, like you're going to wind up paying a good bit each semester. So I think my dues total for the year are around like it's between 3,000 and 5,000. So like it is going to be expensive. I think it's about 500 per month, and but it really depends on how new your house is and what fees are tied into that. So I know some chapters have their t-shirts tied into that, so you're not having to buy t-shirts separately. And then also depends on like your formal and the different date parties, like what budgets you'll have. So it really depends. We're working to provide financial transparency sheets on our website. And I know right now there is a range on there, but you will also get financial transparency sheets during recruitment. So like you can ensure that you're able to afford a house. So like if you like this house, or if you're between two houses and one's more expensive, you can't afford it, then like you can pick the other house practically.
So I would say for IFC organizations, the due structure is typically paying by the semester. So, and Nick sort of alluded to this, and Jacqueline can correct me if I'm wrong. I think many NPHC organizations have larger upfront fees or costs, and then afterward, those fees are a little bit lighter. I would say that cost is typically distributed a little bit more evenly by semester for most IFC and Panhellenic organizations. For many of those organizations in IFC, a lot of that money ends up going to substitute towards things that you wouldn't necessarily be paying for in later years. So a really good example is every incoming student ends up getting a meal plan, but eventually you can transition away from a university meal plan and just eat all your meals at your respective house if your organization has one. And so you're sort of like, instead of paying for the university meal plan, you're paying for the meal plan at the house per se. And so some of that cost isn't all just toward, I would say like social events or anything like that. It does sort of divert from getting something from one place to another. So IFC actually has an Adobe Spark page for our recruitment guide that has a lot of the financial information for all of our chapters. If you go to ifcrecruitmentguide.com, it will pull up the 2020 University of Mississippi IFC recruitment guide that contains a lot of the financial structure for all of our 15 active chapters. I'm looking at it right now. It's a really good resource. It also talks a little bit about the typical new member obligation. So like that's 6 versus 8 weeks, new member period, with some academic obligations as well. So that's a really good resource to check out for the financial structure for some of our IFC chapters.
For us, the fees kind of vary. They're usually set by nationals, so they're not really set by the chapter. And depending on how nationals decides to structure from year to year will kind of determine the fees. They're usually no more than like 1,200, I want to say. But that's when you go to like the Greek forum and the informational sessions and things like that. That's when you find out specifically like exactly how much it'll cost that specific year. And then you have yearly dues, so you pay that large fee up front, like Harrison said, and then every year you have like a smaller fee to pay.
All right, awesome. Thank y'all for all that information. So if there aren't any more questions, we're going to kind of go ahead and start wrapping up our session. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and thank y'all for taking the time. Y'all shared some great perspectives and gave some really amazing advice. So on behalf of the university, thank y'all for doing that. Virtual round of applause for everybody. You can even do it with the reaction if you want to on Zoom. Look at that. Isn't that fun? But really want to say that I appreciate y'all taking the time to do this for our incoming students. Again, we'll post this video on our website for students to take advantage if they weren't able to get here today, so they can learn a little bit more about fraternity and sorority life at the University of Mississippi. All right, y'all have a great Thursday and hotty toddy. Bye.